All right. Welcome, one and all. We are here at the Off the Rails Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. I had a really good segment yesterday with Brother Scott. I always enjoy talking motorsports with that guy. I got to say, that guy is smart. He knows a lot of stuff. You know, I do research for the show, and inevitably he comes up with stuff I never even heard. I'm like, whoa, this guy knows his stuff. He ain't messing around. And same thing with Brian when we do baseball. I don't want to tell him that because it's a little too competitive, but man, that cat knows a lot. He sure does. And he's got, you know what I like about both of them? I didn't just bring them on because they were friends. They always offer unique insights that I don't hear typically in the world of sports. You know, Brian always, we were talking before we started the podcast about, the preview on the season, and he was just zinging out stuff left and right. He's like, you want me to save it for the podcast? And I go, no, man. I said, just say it now. And I was, I kind of wanted to learn from him. And the same thing with Scott, we kind of go raw into it. We don't really do a lot of pre-prep. We do individually, but I like to have it free-forming where we play off each other. We're kind of getting the rhythm a little better. I'm really impressed with both those guys, and I really appreciate them spending so much time with us. And I did hear a comment today that somebody thought Brian was pretty cool doing the podcast from his truck. You don't really see that too often. Man's a busy man, right? All right, we're going to do our Friday sports recap. And in the NCAA, Houston won a thriller, 62-60 over Purdue. 2.9 seconds left, inbounds pass. They passed it back to the out-of-bouncer. He put it in the hoop. They took it. Purdue just played great. That's all I can say. I didn't expect that much of a fight. I still think Florida is the best team. I have Houston to win the title, but they got lucky to win. Tennessee beat Kentucky for the first time this year. It's like I talked with Scott the other day. Kentucky had won the other two meetings this year. And I said, no matter who wins, the narrative's already set. Tennessee was going to, quote unquote, get revenge. Or Kentucky just had their number. Either way, it was all set up. Auburn, it was a close game for a while. Pulled away at the end, 78-65 over Michigan. Michigan had a really good year. Really good year. And finally, Michigan State pulled away at the end, beat Mississippi, Ole Miss, 73-70. There was a late three-pointer by Ole Miss to make the cover. How you doing, man? 4 points. They're up by 6. Oh, it's the kind of thing that drives you to drink. You know what? Talking about that, I think I will have a drink. You're either happy all night or you're sad all week. It's just what it is. Also, the best player currently in the portal, gentleman named Donovan Dent from the University of New Mexico, had a really good year, committed to UCLA. I don't know how that happened. Must have been a mistake. I don't think UCLA has that kind of money, but I guess they did. I guess they came up with it. I'm going to bring up something else about the NCAA that you're not going to hear anywhere else. That's what this podcast is all about. I noticed a lot of empty seats. On Thursday, I don't know. They don't really pan. You only get the one little shot. But half the seats in that first section, I think it's the Loge, up from the floor, were empty. I didn't see as many in both games. And then both games tonight, they looked a little more full. But when they panned back every so often, you could see the rafters were empty. And I'm wondering, I looked for the prices of tickets. And especially for the West Regional up in San Francisco at the Chase Center. And it's easy for me to say the tickets weren't that expensive, but they all seem to be about $200 a piece. Yeah, that's pricey. I'm not going to argue, but you're talking for a Final Final 16, Final 8 ticket, it didn't seem that crazy. I got to tell you, I'm still pissed off about the Ryder Cup. I wanted to go see the Ryder Cup this year at Bethpage, and the tickets were $1,000 a day. F you. F you. And when I see Jay Monahan say, oh, we care about the fans, yeah. I want to punch him in the goddamn head because he's an idiot. I really hope this podcast gets big enough one day that I can talk to somebody on tour. So I can tell them, hey, you know what? F you. How much are you going to stick it in our butt? Jesus Christ, man. Really? All right. Baseball. We're off and running. Everybody's playing now. Tampa Bay in that minor league ballpark. Won in the ninth inning, 3-2. Walk-off homer. First time that a player, his first hit in the big leagues was a walk-off homer. I guess I should have got his name, but he plays for Tampa Bay. He was an eighth inning replacement, defensive replacement. And maybe tomorrow I'll have his name. Hit another home run tomorrow, buddy, and I'll remember you. Okay? Dodgers, 4-0. Mookie Betts hits a 3-run homer in the 10th. I don't know what you got to do to beat him. I just don't know. First time they've been 4-0 since 1981. Who's going to beat these guys? You know, if these guys, I'll throw a number out there. Will their longest losing streak be over or under 3.5? I don't know what I'd bet. You give me even money. It's just so hard to see them losing 4 in a row. I could see 3. You know, sometimes it just happens. You know, dog days of summer. You run into just a hot team. I don't know. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to ask Brian that on Monday. I'm going to ask him that. I know what he'll say, over. He hates the Dodgers more than I do, which is way cool. Okay, going to the PGA Tour at the Houston Open, suspended by weather. Scheffler. We finally saw Scheffler. Rounding into form, right in time for the Masters. We got this tournament. We got the Valero Open. Sorry. You don't get that too often in podcast, right? Late at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. Scheffler saw it at 62. He's 11 under. It'll be interesting. I don't have to have him win this tournament. I just want, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to bet him to win the tournament. Not at 4-1. It's just stupid. You know, you got 80 golfers there. One of them gets a hot putter. No. And I'm not betting anything on Scheffler. You know, I'm going to be taking golfers to finish in the top 5, top 10. You know, I'm going to take, hypothetically, a Justin Rose. Give me 6-1 for him to get a top 10. You know what I mean? That's a course he's very, very good at. If I'm looking outside the bubble, I keep thinking Brooks Koepka is going to make it there one year. Patrick Cantlay, maybe. I had him a couple years ago when he burst onto the scene. He was in the lead after the 15th hole, excuse me. And I had him at 60-1. Yeah, that was the year Tiger won. Thanks. How you doing? Pendrith is second at 10 under. Pretty interesting. We're going to have a good tournament here. Rory McIlroy in the middle. I really just don't like McIlroy at the Masters. It's just not a course for him. Yeah, I like him at the Open. I definitely like him at the PGA, but for some reason the Masters just doesn't fit him. It just does not fit his game. And I don't know what that is, right? What are you going to do? Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. All right, if you could, hit the like and subscribe button, leave a comment, and I'll talk to you soon.